Not all men who sat on the throne of Peter were saints. Some were sinners who plunged the church into scandals, corruption, and even macabre trials. What if I told you there was a pope who turned the Vatican into a brothel, another who put a corpse on trial, and even one who sold paradise for gold? These are not legends. These are real and dark chapters in the history of the church. Get ready to uncover the most controversial popes the Vatican would rather you forget. For centuries, the papacy has been the ultimate symbol of spiritual authority in the Catholic Church, an institution that has shaped the destiny of nations and influenced history like no other. But what happens when that power becomes controversial? At the heart of the Church's history, we find leaders who not only guided the faithful, but also divided opinions, marked eras of scandal, and challenged the very pillars of Christianity. Popes who amassed immense wealth, others who indulged in lust or even engaged in bizarre trials, and yet maintained control over the Church. But what happened during these papacies that shocked both history and faith? Who were these men who occupied the throne of Peter, but whose actions became dark and disturbing chapters in Vatican history? Today, in this episode, we dive into the lives of the 5 most controversial popes in the history of the Catholic Church. Their stories go beyond religion. They speak of ambition, power, and decisions that changed the course of faith. Get ready to explore a side of the papacy that few know, one that continues to intrigue and challenge our understanding of sacred history. Pope Urban VI, the pope who divided the church in two. Urban VI ascended to the throne of Peter amidst political tensions. His election, forced by the pressure of the Roman people, was the spark that ignited the Western Schism, a nearly 40-year period during which the Catholic Church was divided between 2, and at one point 3, rival popes. The controversy surrounding Urban was not just political but deeply personal. He was known for his severe and unpredictable temperament. It is said that Urban tortured and even executed cardinals who conspired against him, an unprecedented act that spread fear and distrust within the Church itself. His obsession with power and lack of diplomacy exacerbated the schism, leaving the Church weakened and divided. While he is not remembered for moral scandals, the impact of his leadership on the spiritual and political power of the Church was disastrous. Pope Leo X, the Pope who sold paradise. Leo X is often associated with the phrase, "God has given us the papacy, let us enjoy it." And enjoy it he did. During his papacy, the sale of indulgences, a practice that promised the remission of sins in exchange for money, reached alarming levels. The goal? To finance the construction of St. Peter's Basilica. However, this practice provoked the outrage of Martin Luther, leading to the start of the Protestant Reformation and the creation of a division that still echoes within Christianity today. Leo X was not directly accused of lust or personal scandals, but his papacy was marked by extreme luxury. He organized extravagant feasts and spent absurd amounts of the Church's treasury, treating the Vatican more as a Renaissance palace than a spiritual symbol. Even so, it was his failure to foresee the consequences of the Reformation that made his papacy a turning point in the history of the Church. Before we get to the top 3 most controversial popes in history, how about an invitation? If you're enjoying this dive into the mysteries and scandals of the Church, subscribe to the channel now. That way you won't miss any of our videos full of curiosities, revelations, and stories that challenge what you think about the past. Click the subscribe button and stay with us. Pope John XII, the Pope who turned the Vatican into a brothel. When John XII ascended to the throne, he was only 18 years old, but his youth did not bring spiritual renewal. On the contrary, his papacy is widely regarded as one of the most corrupt in history. John turned the Vatican into a haven of excess, known for its orgies and the transformation of the papal residence into what chroniclers of the time described as a brothel. Among the accusations against him were adultery, incest, and even invoking pagan gods before battles. He was also accused of committing murders and mutilations in the name of revenge. In one particularly shocking instance, John was accused of toasting to the devil during a banquet. His leadership, marked by scandals and a lack of spirituality, ended tragically. He died under suspicious circumstances, according to reports. He was killed by an enraged husband after being caught with the man's wife. John XII is a grim reminder of how absolute power can corrupt, even in the most sacred position of Christianity. Pope Alexander VI, the Borgia Pope, and the pinnacle of corruption. When we think of corruption in the papacy, the name Alexander VI inevitably comes to mind. A member of the infamous Borgia family, he embodied the darkest side of the Renaissance: politics, intrigue, and decadence. Alexander VI used his position to favor his illegitimate children, especially Cesare Borgia, who led military campaigns in his father's name. During his papacy, nepotism reached unprecedented levels. He also amassed vast wealth through the sale of offices and indulgences. But what shocked the most was his personal life. Alexander organized lavish parties and, according to accounts, hosted the infamous Banquet of the Chestnuts, a celebration filled with nude dancers and obscene games within the Vatican walls. Despite this, Alexander was a master of political diplomacy. He controlled territories and alliances with skill, consolidating the Church's power, but at the cost of its spiritual credibility. Today, he is remembered as a pope who traded the ideal of sanctity for absolute domination. Pope Stephen VI, the trial of a corpse, the pinnacle of absurdity. While other popes were corrupt or immoral, none approached the grotesque absurdity of Stephen VI. During his short and turbulent papacy, he ordered the infamous Cadaver Synod, an event so shocking that it appalled even his contemporaries. What happened? Stephen had the body of his predecessor, Pope Formosus, exhumed, dressed in papal robes, and put on trial. The corpse was accused of heresy and other irregularities. During the trial, the body was found guilty, stripped of its vestments, and thrown into the Tiber River. The reason? Likely political revenge. Stephen sought to erase Formosus's legacy and consolidate his own power. However, his madness was not forgiven. The synod provoked outrage among the clergy and the Roman people, and Stephen was eventually deposed and strangled in prison shortly thereafter. The Cadaver Synod remains one of the most absurd and grotesque episodes in the Church's history, a symbol of how far the thirst for power can take a religious leader. The history of the Catholic Church is a fascinating journey of light and shadows, faith and power, sanctity and controversy. And the popes we explored today are striking examples of how the papacy, though sacred, has been shaped by humans, with all their virtues and flaws. From Urban VI, whose severity divided the Church during the Western Schism, to the grotesque trial of a corpse under Stephen VI, these stories reveal the more human, and often imperfect, side of Catholic leadership. Ambition, political intrigue, abuses of power, and even unprecedented absurdities marked these eras and continue to echo as reminders of how the decisions of these men impacted Christianity and global history. But as controversial as they were, each of these popes left lessons. They remind us that, in a position of such immense power, individual choices can shape not just institutions, but the course of history. The Church survived these dark chapters and remains one of the most influential institutions in the world. Now we want to hear from you. Which of these stories surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to know what you think. And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, take this chance to join the channel. Here, we explore the mysteries, secrets, and stories you won't find in history books. See you in the next video.